Okay, boxing fans, it's been confirmed finally, a month after we knew, we all found out anyway. Kell Brook is to defend this title against the Argentinian Paul Smith. You all know him. You all know he's never won a fight worth talking about. Diego Chaves. So I'm going to bring in Paul first, I think, because Paul is a big Kell Brook fan. What do you think about this fight, Paul?
It's not bad, but it's not the big name we were promised. So I'm not really happy about it, to be brutal. I'm upset that it's going to be on pay-per-view and we're going to have to pay for it because it's not a pay-per-view fight. It's not a fight that anyone is going to really be talking about in terms of it being good. Diego Chaves is a mediocre opponent. This is a mediocre fight, and we shouldn't be having to pay for mediocre fights. And if you're going to promise us a big fight, don't deliver a mediocre one.
Mm, that's right. Because they've been talking a lot about guys like Marquez, and they've been talking about Bradley and Rios, but we'll come into that in a bit. We'll go on to Rory. What do you think about the fight?
No, it's pants. I mean, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's an okay fight. It's a stay busy kind of fight. And I'd be happy with that if it wasn't for two things. One, if it wasn't on pay-per-view. And two, like you've mentioned, if they've not basically made themselves, Matchroom, especially in Eddie Hearn, made themselves out to look like absolute cunts now because, like Paul said and you said, they were mentioning these big, massive names.
Right. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I just agree with Rory. It's a mediocre fight that's been wrapped up to be something better. I mean, Matchroom have promised fights and they failed to deliver, so then they have to polish off, a mediocre fight and try to pass that off. I didn't know it was on pay-per-view, but if that's true, then that's even worse.
It is on
Uh,
pay-per-view.
yeah, so I mean, it's a stay busy fight, and Diego Chavez doesn't deserve a title shot. Not after two losses, a draw, and a win from his last four. I mean, he's never beaten a top opponent. Never come close to beating a top opponent. He didn't deserve a draw against Timothy Bradley, really. So, he's never come close to a big win. Yet he's on he's getting a world title shot. And Kell Brook, in his fourth title defense, should be defending against somebody who's better than a mediocre fighter.
That's right, yeah. We'll move on. Kent, you're actually from the United States. So unlike us, you'll get to watch this fight if it's on your TV for free. Way. Whereas we'll have to pay. Boo. What are your thoughts on this fight?
It's crap. Let's just be real here. Like, this guy, listen, you know what he is? Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Eddie Hearn's a car salesman. That's what he does. He takes a pile of shit and he polishes it up and says, listen, I gave you something. I'm giving you something good here. Like, he's polishing it up and making it look like presentable using PR and sleight of hand and cute words. But let's just be realistic. Diego Chavez has fought on American television, right? And it wasn't pay-per-view against Starman, and so what makes Chavez pay-per-view worthy in the UK especially when he wasn't pay-per-view worthy in the US?
I don't get it. Honestly, I don't know. Well, I know why. Greed. That's the only reason.
It's greed. It's just greed. Remember, Eddie Hearn is a greedy person, and he's taking advantage of fans who don't know any better and think that just because you're adding a fight like Vladimir Klitschko and Tyson Fury to the bill,
So what you're saying is they're using the Klitschko and Fury fight to piggyback the Brook versus
oh
Chavez fight
yeah,
on pay-per-view.
because they know it won't sell by itself.
Exactly, it won't. Let me stop you there, Kent, because we're going to move on to the next segment now, and I think this is a great segue. I wouldn't be as bothered about this fight if Diego Chavez didn't go around the IBF Eliminators that he was in. Okay? So if Diego Chaves fought Kevin Bezier from Canada, or Devon Alexander, or who's the guy who's been put in, is it Frederick Lawson, the prison canteen guy? If he fought one of those guys first, in the Eliminator, and then it become mandatory, I wouldn't have much to argue about, as it would have to happen. Do you agree with that, Paul, or do you think it doesn't matter, it's shit anyway?
No, I agree with that. If the fight was mandatory, then we can't really kick up a stink because he's got to do it to keep the belt.
Yeah.
But the way it is, Brook is going to fight again in December and have his mandatory then. Well, what's the point in that? If they're going to do that, why are they going to fight twice in, 2.5 months? Would it be?
I don't know.
Well, if he does fight in December, which is what Hearn said on Twitter, today that the plan is for Brook to fight his mandatory in December. I don't know who it will be, but...
Well, it will be either Kevin Bezier or the Ghanaian dude.
Yeah, and that will probably be on pay-per-view as well. So why, if that does happen, why don't they just kill two birds with one stone and fight the mandatory now in October or whenever they're going to do the fight? Why have they got to fight twice in so many months and have one? The mandatory is going to be garbage because neither of those two guys, no matter who it is going to beat Brook. Not many people are going to pick Chaves to beat Brook either. Yeah. Why are they having to they both keep busy fights.
Yeah.
Why have they got to have two of those in just a few months? And this is coming off the back of another keep busy fight against Frankie Gavin back in May. So if he does have this fight and he does fight in December, he'll have had 3 keep busy fights in 6 months. What's the point in that? I know it's good for fighters to be active, but there's no point being active when you're fighting crap opponents. Fans don't care. Fighter doesn't get any respect. Nobody really wins.
It's not like he's making millions either, doing it.
Well, he'll be making a couple of quid because
he'll be making it. Just before Christmas, it'll come in handy.
Yeah,
not for us, but it'll come in handy for them. But he's not going to make PBC type money.
Well, it's a money grab. That's all it is. It's pure greed from Sky. Pure greed.
I agree. I'll just quickly go to Rory, Ryan, and back to Kent. So, Rory, would you rather what's-his-face, Argentinian Paul Smith, Diego Chaves, had to actually go through a eliminator route just to put a victory on his record, so he's at least coming off a win, going into this fight?
Yes, it'll make it more credible, but I don't particularly think it'll make it any better. He's still Diego fucking Chaves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And who's he going to end up beating anyway? He's not going to beat like a top-level guy.
Well, like I said, it'll be either against Kevin Bezier or the Ghanaian dude. I mean, the Ghanaian dude, I don't even know his name.
The people who's going to be buying this pay-per-view are casual. It's going to be predominantly casual fans, as we would call the Sky Hype Train, Matchroom fans, etc., etc. So therefore, they won't give a shit because they don't know who Kevin Bezier is. They don't know who Diego Chaves is, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a little bit of an easier sell because Eddie's got an extra thing to talk about that makes Diego Chaves look better. But I think the big thing is this. The fact Kell Brook even. Kell Brook is fighting in the space of less than 3 months is because everyone knows that this fight is shit. The fact that they know that they're planning on Kell fighting again in December is, one, they're overlooking Chaves because they think it's a shit fight. They're quite happy that they think Kell's just going to go in there, blast him out, it'll be fine. There's no risk of any injury, any damage, so he'll be more than easy and happy to fight again soon. And the fact that they basically fucked it up. So what they're basically trying to do is they're trying to say, well, we've not brought you one decent fight, so we'll give you 2 shit ones. And they're hoping that in some way that'll compensate, but obviously it doesn't.
And they're both going to be pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's bollocks as well. But
yeah. Okay, Ryan, we'll move to you, mate. Would you rather he had to go through the eliminator route just so he gets a win on his record against someone ranked in the IBF rankings?
Well, yeah, like all the time, because if you have to do that, then at least, like you said, at least you have to actually win a fight. I mean, that's the best route for any fighter to get a world title shot, because at least it means that they'll have at least one win on their record, one good win. He's coming into this off the back of a loss and a draw. So yeah, but like Paul was saying, what is the point in having this keep busy fight when whoever he fights next as a mandatory is going to be a simple pushover anyway, which means his world title reign so far would have been 4 title defences, or no, the win against Sean Porter, then 3 title defences, and then bland ones, and then another bland title defence. So it would have been 4 world title defences against really mediocre opposition.
Yeah.
Frankie Gavin, a guy who had already lost and is British level at the moment.
Yeah.
Jojo Dan, who is pretty good fighter, but again not elite. Sean Porter, undefeated, fair enough, but that was a very close fight.
Yeah, Sean Porter, he won the title.
Yes, that was. That to date is really his only very impressive win. All of his other wins have been sort of fairly impressive. Okay, the Senchenko win I think was impressive as well.
That was pre-titles. No point talking about that one. I mean,
yeah. So anyway, obviously it would be best if Chavez had to actually earn the title shot.
Yeah. I know not many people could say they go into a title shot not off a win. But well, I guess he does. Ken, what are your thoughts? Do you think he should have went through the IBF eliminator route?
Yeah, I think in this situation you have to, because the 2 top guys would have been Chavez and Fred Lawson.
Yeah.
And
that's the one from the Ghanaian prison canteen.
Yeah, he's a guy that's signed with Al Heyman. It would have been proper that they did that. It would have you would have at least given one of the guys a more, a credible, win. I'll just be honest with you. Fred Lawson got a gift against Braden Prescott, and that's all you need to know about him.
No.
And my thing is, this is my thing. If you're going to basically, slip money to the IBF and say, well, we want to fight Chavez. Can you make the fight happen without, going through the eliminator? They're not, listen, sanctioning bodies never turn down money. They're the most greediest institutions in boxing. They're not going to turn down money. That's what it sounds like Eddie Hearn did here, slip money, said, can we get Chavez? Probably under the promise that they would fight Fred Lawson in the next fight, which kills 2 birds with 1 stone. And it gives us no more answers about Kell Brook. We know he can beat this level, and it's just a bunch of bullshit, and Eddie's going to cash in on 2 pay-per-views.
Yeah, that is the up and down of it, really. Just quickly, just a yes or no answer from you guys. We'll start with Paul. Do you actually think Chavez would win a IBF eliminator if he was to face, Kevin Bezier?
If he fought Kevin Bezier, yeah. If he'd have fought Devin Alexander, which is what was talked about, then no.
Right. What do you think, Rory? Do you think he'll beat a lot of the guys, the Devin Alexanders, Beziers?
Same with Paul. Devin, I think, is probably has too much experience. I think the other guys, including Chavez, are all pretty much the same level. You talk like the Jojo Dans, who was the original mandatory. They're all that sort of padded sort of 20-plus win records. So they'd probably be 50-50 fights. It might be a decent watch, but they're all sort of perhaps B-level fighters, if that.
If that, yeah. What do you think, Ryan? Do you think Bezier would lose to Chavez? Do you think Chavez would win an eliminator?
Yeah, I think Chavez is on the same level as Bezier, Yo-Yo Dan. He's a little bit more, raw than some of the others. I think he'd probably get outboxed by them all. But he's on that sort of level. But yeah, Devin Alexander is a level above. So he'd beat some, lose to others.
Yeah, he's really more like a C-level fighter, is Chavez, I reckon.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What do you reckon, Ken? Do you reckon he'd win in an eliminator? Well, I'll tell you what I think first. I don't think he'll beat any of them. Bezier, no. Devin Alexander, definitely not. I think he would school him. I don't know anything about the prison canteen, dude, so I'll say
I know something about
probably about that.
he's not
So go
that
on.
good.
Who do you think you'd beat any of those guys?
I honestly think that Chaves would probably beat Lawson,
Yeah.
and that's probably about it. I'll tell you, Fred Lawson is what he is. Okay, he's a guy built up on guys in Ghana, and he built up this gaudy knockout record, and then he came over here, and once he started stepping up and fighting guys, his power is just not that type of power.
Mm.
I mean, I've seen him a couple times. Actually, I've seen him the 3 fights that he's had here in the U.S., and he doesn't have big time power. And the thing with Chaves is, to beat him, like, you have to either really take him to school or hurt him. And I just don't think Lawson would be able to hurt him. But the rest, I think, would beat him actually quite easily.
Yeah. That's probably about fair. Just finally, before we close this off, just a quick one, guys. Do you even think this fight's going to be semi-competitive? I mean, Paul, do you reckon this will be semi-competitive? I'll start with me first, actually. I'll start with me. I don't even think this is good. This is definitely not going a distance. I think this will be over inside around 6 rounds. I mean, and I'll tell you why. The other guy, the guy Chaves, he's not actually fought this year. He's been inactive this year. He's coming off a gift draw, which he should have lost. And I think for some reason people are overrating him. I don't think he's as good as people think. And don't forget, he was the last guy Keith Thurman looked good against, knocking out. Since then, downhill Thurman. But he was the last guy he looked good against, which could mean quite a bit. Paul, go on, take the torch. What do you reckon?
I think it could be semi-competitive for a few rounds because the guy is very dirty.
Aye.
That sounded wrong, no. No, but the guy it's going to be dead dirty.
Oh, yeah.
No,
It's dirty.
the guy's, we saw the fight with Rios. The guy likes to stick his head in. He likes to throw a few low blows. It wouldn't surprise me if Kell Brook gets cut in this fight. But,
And he ain't fighting in December then.
I know, imagine. But Chaves, I don't think he has the quality or the skill to beat Brook.
No.
We saw the guy get pretty much outboxed by Timothy Bradley.
He got outfought by Tim Bradley? Outfought?
Yeah, nobody in their right mind gave that a draw.
No.
Or thinks it was a fair result. So
Exactly.
I think Brook will either beat him on points or maybe a late stoppage. And Chaves will have his moments here and there. It won't be an easy night's work for Brook, I don't think, but I don't think he'll ever come close to winning the fight. No. If I had to put money on it, I'd put Brook to win a points win, a fairly wide points win, maybe 1 or 2 bad moments, but no, I don't see him beating Brook at all.
Okay. What are your thoughts then, Raw Dog?
Yeah, I just think Chavez might have the odd decent, perhaps 10-second spell in the odd round here and there, perhaps connects with a few punches on Brook, but I don't think it'll be anything to trouble Brook. And because of such, I think Brook will probably be too big for him as well, especially come to sort of fight night. I think Brook will look absolutely massive compared to him. I think Chaves is probably a pumped up light welter, and with that in mind, I think Brook stops him anywhere between rounds 4 and 9.
Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Brook stops him in the middle rounds, I think. Just too good, too strong. Sometimes Brook blows hot and cold, in some of his earlier fights, say a few fights ago before he became world champion, he was, he wasn't always that impressive, like the first fight against Carson Jones. He looked a bit bad in moments, but he's improving. He's definitely improving, and I think, you know, he's learning on the job while he holds a world title, which I think is wrong. I think you should, you know, get to your peak before you get a world title shot, but that's not how it usually works nowadays. But yeah, I really don't think that Chavez has a chance of winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Kent? Just to end it up.
This is gonna just be. I think listen, the only reason why Chaves was competitive with Thurman because Thurman's not that great. But I will say this. Brook will win by late stoppage. I think he just schools him and then he just puts him out late. I think it'll be like an 7th or 8th round stoppage.
Yeah. Sounds about right to me. Yeah. We're gonna call it there then, guys. That is our thoughts on the whole fight, and we hope you enjoy the video. And if you don't, well, you can go fuck yourself.